Hello everyone, good afternoon, welcome. You're listening to Talking Jobs with me, rbromnick, and today the subject is teaching and teacher training. I was having a little think, how am I going to introduce this? And you know what, I went outside my office and there was a poster that said, "A teacher can hoop, ignite the imagination, instill a love of learning." I thought that's fantastic. Do you know what? I was going to tell you a story, one of my famous stories. I was going to tell you about my primary school teacher, Mrs. Middleton. I was itching to tell this story. Actually, I tell a lie. I'm still wanting to tell it. But I thought, well, it's a little bit kind of self-indulgent because with teaching, in contrast to some of our other professionals from this Talking Jobs series, all of you will have your own stories about teachers who've instilled hope and imagination and inspired you, and maybe you've got stories about teachers who, I don't know, diminished you or didn't recognise your potential. You'll all have your own stories, so I'll resist the almost unbearable urge to tell you my own story. Time to think of yourself now as a professional who might go into teaching. And one of the things I do, and I don't know if you've ever done this, try it out. If you're researching a profession, I like to go onto Google, but I click on the news rather than just doing a Google search. You find really hot topics. There was something about LGBT teaching and about all of the controversies there. Something about raising the salary for teachers, woohoo! And actually, I say woohoo, maybe not relate to me personally, but maybe to you. And I found out also from that Google News about somebody called Ross Morrison McGill, apparently the most popular educator on social media. His blog has 10 million readers. Gosh, imagine what impact. He's got a really good blog. Have a look at it. It's Teacher Toolkit at Teacher Toolkit. So we're going to be talking about teaching and teacher training. I'm going to say from the start, we're not going to be talking today about being a university lecturer. We can cover that separately. And we're not going to be talking about 16 plus in terms of FE teaching. Again, you can research into that. And we're not going to be talking so much about special needs. Whew. We're also assuming that our listeners to this recording are people who are already at university doing a degree, something like psychology. If perchance you're somebody else, then please do research different routes, because there are research. It's worth researching different routes if you're still at school or if you've been in the army or so. We're going to be looking mostly at primary and also encouraging you to consider secondary school teaching, talking about the application process, talking about all the different routes, and that's today's topic. So stay tuned and we'll meet our special guest who's going to tell us all about teaching. So welcome into the studio today is Imogen Hobson. Welcome, Imogen.
Hello.
I'm really excited to meet Imogen because some people were saying to me, Rachel, you keep just interviewing your buddies. Why don't you get out more and meet someone new? So I'm delighted to welcome Imogen, and we've never met before. So thank you for coming along today.
Thank you.
So tell us, Imogen, about your current role regarding your experience and things.
So currently I'm an employment skills advisor. So I work at the Careers and Employability Centre at the university. It's just off from the library on the right. We're sometimes a little bit tucked away, but no, we are there to the right side of the library when you walk in the entrance. So I support students with workshops to help improve their employability skills. So thinking about communication, resilience, problem solving, but I also cover topics such as teaching.
Yay.
And different professions. And I also support students with the application process. So you can always come into the Career Centre. We have a drop-in from 1 to 4, Monday to Friday. We can help you with CV advice, cover letters as well. So my role is quite varied at the minute.
Sounds really varied. Now we've particularly picked on you, Imogen, to help us with teacher training, because you were a teacher yourself, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. I was primary trained I did a university-led route through the PGCE, and I actually qualified almost a year ago. So yeah, I'm quite fresh off from the profession, as you could say.
Oh, that's great. That's great, but you're still in a role where you're, doing what a teacher does and helping people and supporting them. So that's fantastic. So we're going to sort of break this down for our listeners because it is a little bit complicated, the different routes that are open to you. So we're going to just outline some of those. So you mentioned about PGCE, so that's the university route. So tell us just a little bit about what's involved with that.
So with the university route, you would choose or apply to a university and you would get support from them. So they'd be your main contact. But you would get placements mainly at 2 different schools, and you get different placements over the year. And the university would organise those for you as part of the course. So in total you get 24 weeks working in a school. And the benefit of though is you could also get the chance to get master's credits. So you could end up with some of the assignments you do, because you will have to do assignments as well, you could get 60 master's credits. So it's a very varied course between assignments and placements, and also having lectures at the university helping you improve your knowledge and skills on the things you need to be a teacher.
Oh, that's great. So that's the PGCE route, and I understand, partly because I nicked this leaflet off the wall, that there's a schools-led route. So let's just hear a little bit about what that would involve.
So with the schools-led route, you can have different types of courses. So you can have a skit course. So there primarily you apply to a group of schools, an academy or a trust, and you spend the majority of time there with them, and they will support you with all that knowledge and information you'll need to become a better teacher. And you've got school direct routes. Now they are also school-led, and you can have 80 to 90% of your time with them, so 4 days a week in a school. But they can also be partnered with universities as well. So you could have a joint partnership between a university and a school with School Direct, and you can get a tuition fee to pay, sadly, but you could do a salaried route as well if you had 3 years experience already. So there's lots of different options in the school-led routes.
Where would people get that experience? Would that be as a teaching assistant, do you think?
Yeah,
or something like that?
I think a teaching assistant or sports coaches are becoming really popular in schools. So a lot of young people are doing sports coach apprenticeships. Or if you worked in a nursery or you volunteered at a youth club, I think that could be counted experience as well.
People would need to look into it themselves, wouldn't they, to see what they had. And my understanding, because I'm promoting it as well, is the Teach First charity that also takes people. So tell me a little bit about Teach First.
So like you said, Teach First is a charity because they're particularly there at supporting children from deprived areas. So they want to get their candidates into schools and to support them from deprived areas and really helping the community. They follow a different route because they have their own separate application process, not using UCAS, and it's a 2-year programme. So, and you develop leadership skills along the way, and it's also salaried. So that can be quite an interesting option for some people.
Yeah, they look for some of, well, they like to say they look for the highest quality graduates. I just want to tell our listeners, think about the title of Teach First, because my understanding was they called it that because they were saying to graduates, teach first, and if you like it, stay with it, and if you don't, then think about doing law or civil service or something. So, you're not necessarily making a lifetime choice. So have a look at the Teach First website. They'll tell you about their own entry requirements and so forth. Applications open in the autumn, as they do for all of these routes. So let's talk about that application process. Look at Teach First separately. We'll talk about that UCAS route if you wouldn't mind, Imogen. So what would happen when people are applying through UCAS?
So it's really similar to what you did to apply on your degree course. So it's using the same UCAS application process. There's a slight difference. So you put your personal details in and you'll choose 3 courses that you would like to apply for. Now these can be from any of the routes we've mentioned. So you can have a combination of school-led and university-led, or 3 school direct courses. And once you've chosen your courses, you also have to submit a personal statement. So as some of you may be familiar, it's a 44-line statement explaining why you want to teach and really sharing your passions to convince the people to give you a place on their course. Now, the next stage is hopefully you get invited to an interview. And it's not just a standalone interview, it's an applicant day. Now, this can be quite daunting for some people, but we have support along the way to help you with that at the Career Service. And it's a day full of activities. So schools and courses like the university will give you to see if you're right match for their course and see if you can really bring something to teaching.
Oh, that's great. It sounds really exciting. Also, as you say, a bit daunting. So do you have an example of what someone might expect on one of these applicant days?
My friend always told me this and I was really surprised. She was applying for a school direct course, so a course that's based at a school. So she's applying directly to the school to work there and train. And they put a shoe on the table. She was sat there in this room with other candidates, dressed all smartly, waiting to have her big moment to do a group discussion, and they put a shoe, an old boot, and they literally said, the interview panel, right, tell us what you would do with the shoe of your teacher, turn it into a lesson, tell us all the activities you do. She was absolutely shocked. Luckily she came up with something about old Mother Hubbard living in the shoe, be great for nursery children.
I don't know what I would say.
No, it is really interesting.
It's a good thing. I'm trying to think, because we have geography, because there's like clogs in Holland.
Yeah,
maybe we should do that for university lecturers. For psychology, put a brain on the desk, put their CVs to one side, and that's it, go.
It could have, they chose quite a versatile item really. You didn't think about it, you think, oh, it's a shoe, but really there's a lot you can do with it. So she found it a really interesting activity.
Good. Did she get on the course, by the way?
Yeah, she did. she did get a place, but yeah, it's an interesting story to take home with her.
Yeah, so that's the UCAS process and then the applicant day. Now, I know that we've got some really good support available from your service. So, Imogen, will you just sort of outline what somebody could expect if they did take that right turn in the library, left for a book, right for a job? So, what would they expect? What sort of things are you offering?
Well, that sounds quite a good catchphrase we could start embedding. Yeah. So like I mentioned, primarily I'll be running workshops, and funny enough, I am running a workshop every week in September and October, me and my colleague Mark, he's another employment skills advisor, to support you with any more questions about teacher training. And so alongside this workshop explained about job search and CV, this one will be just on teacher training.
Are they running in throughout the whole of autumn 2019?
So throughout the autumn, and then for instance, if you then decided or want to have a little more think about it, we are still running them throughout the year as well, right, but just not as frequently. For instance, that personal statement, if you want some more support with that, you can come and bring it into the Career Centre and we can talk you through with it as well. So we're more than happy to give advice on that. And also, some of you might be thinking, I'm not sure if I want to get some more work experience of teaching. We can help you find work experience placements or talk about the variety of schools you could go to get that experience.
Because you would really advocate volunteering or work experience. Or...
really would, because a lot of courses would at least expect 2 weeks experience in a school with the age group you want to teach, whether that's primary or secondary.
Yeah.
So we can really help you find that as well.
I think it's that point I was making about starting to see teaching from the other side of the classroom. So if you do go into school, you'll get a chance to understand the sort of language of schools. What is a key stage? What is a curriculum? How do people put together lesson plans and link up sort of learning needs and so forth? So it's not just about the standing up there in front of a class. It's about the whole way school functions, isn't it? And you know, the whole culture of teaching, not just the delivery of a lesson sort of thing.
Yeah, that's right. So, because I particularly focused on primary, I had to learn how to teach phonics, which is all like a whole new language in itself.
Okay.
So I couldn't just go A, it was ah now. So I had to almost relearn the alphabet again. So there are a lot of new things, and the curriculum is always changing. So there's always new things you have to learn how to teach. So it's really important you get yourself out there and see what teachers are teaching currently.
Brilliant. So there's lots of support available from the service here at the University of Lincoln. We have such a fantastic career service. We're very lucky to have you here, Imogen, and you're a great asset to the profession. I want to make a couple of concluding points for psychology students. You will see on the national press that there's a shortage of teachers. Primary tends to be most popular for psychology students, and that tends to be most popular generally. And many of you will be interested in developmental psychology or interested in the learning needs of primary kids, and well, go for it. But I want also to broaden your research, because look as well into secondary school teaching. You may be thinking, I've done psychology and that's not a core curriculum subject, but there are real shortages in secondary teaching. So there's shortages particularly in maths and physics. I don't know about physics. I don't know how many of you have a physics A-level, but I know plenty of psychology students have maths A-level, and some of you might be more interested in some of the technology. So there's vacancies where you get a really nice golden handshake. That means money for doing things like teaching maths and also computing and technology. So broaden your research. If you're not quite sure about your abilities to teach at secondary school, there are subject enhancement courses. Sometimes you can do those alongside your teacher training, or some places offer an intense summer school before you start. So there's primary and there's secondary. I don't know if I consider myself, I'm not trained as a teacher in this way, but I have to say, working with young people and students, it is just a fantastic job, and I love you all. So I'm going to say goodbye now before I get even more sentimental. Wish you luck. Get yourself out there, get researching, think about teaching as a career, and keep in touch. Get in touch with the career service, get in touch with me with any more questions. Time now just to say goodbye. So it's bye from me, bye, and bye from Imogen. Thanks, Imogen.
Thank you.
Bye.